Great. All right,
All
we
right.
are live. Welcome back to another episode of Take a Knee. I'm Scott Tucker here with Mike Wallace from Blue Water Advisors.
Good morning. Yeah.
Yeah, you can follow us. I always forget to say this. Hey, make sure you're following us both on LinkedIn, but also on YouTube. We go live with this whenever we go live on our military retirement BlueTube channel. So go ahead, head over there, subscribe. I've got tons of other videos about military retirement. All the insights that Mike has shared on this show, and my wife Jen has broken those down into other videos, and we're gonna have more stuff coming out there as well. So
How many of
subscribe
these have
there.
you done, Scott? Are
Uh-huh.
you tracking these
This is
numbers?
26.
This is 26.
Yeah,
Really? Wow. Okay.
yeah.
I
So
didn't do. Okay.
Yeah, go there, give us that like, thumbs up
Yeah.
button, because that helps the algorithm, gets it in front of more people who might find this useful, and that's what we're trying to do with this show, to speak to those military retirees who are kind of coming out, haven't had a chance to address all this stuff, because usually your career in the military, you got a lot going on. There's a lot of stressors that get dropped in your plate in at one time, and two of those stressors are: one, getting a job and figuring out what you want to do when you grow up. That's what we hear often. But the other thing is, what's the point of the job? It's to get income and replacing the financial security or certainty that we had in the military, while sacrificing outside opportunities in many cases. It was a secure opportunity, and so we know that's coming, but there comes times in the overall economy, things that are outside of our control, that add even more stress and uncertainty. And so, given there was a little hiccup in the stock market, and it gets in the
Just a
news,
little.
and the
Just a
financial
little.
fear, I mean, it's already bounced back,
Yeah.
but they call
True.
it a dead cat bounce. The dead cat
Yep.
bounce.
Yep. There
So
you
it's
go.
back up to where it was, but that could just be a precursor of things to come. And a healthy market correction isn't uncommon. I'll throw this chart up just real briefly, just to kind of remind people these things happen, of course. And unfortunately,
More
where
time.
else can
Yeah.
you put your money? You gotta. Most people are participating in some capacity, whether it's retirement accounts. But this is more than just investing. We're not giving investment advice today or anything like that. We just want to recognize that this has happened before. And I thought, Mike, given our ages and our audience, and kind of where everybody's been at,
Yeah.
we can all remember back to 2008, when there actually was a real crisis, uncertainty. And so we've got that in our past. It's not like we're talking about the Great Depression, just some
Sure.
story back there. So just to kind of broad brush, the topic of the week, since it's in the news. Yeah. What are your kind of thoughts on
Yeah.
on
Well,
the financial uncertainties out there?
I love the intro that you just kind of laid out there, and for members, right? It's as you step into your career progression, right, or transition, right? Yeah, a big part of that is generation of revenue, right? Your next step, but it's more than just generating it, right? I think you would agree that it's the structuring of it, what you want to do with it, how are you going to either put it to work for you, or how are you going to leverage it to protect what you've already right put in place, right? What are other answers, as you're the expert in this space, right? SBP, right? What do I do with my TSP, right? As these can be stressors, especially like many of us that wear the uniform and spend a life right in service. Often we put these things in motion, Scott, and I've had this conversation with you before, and it's just you set it and forget it, right? I mean, and it's all of a sudden now some long amount of time has gone by, and now you're having to come back and revisit this thing that has just been on autopilot, for lack of a better analogy, for years, right? Years. And it can be a little bit of a stressor. Well, can I just leave it alone? Can I do this? Is that really the best, in my case, for this next step I'm getting ready to take in career progression? So, that's part of it. But Yeah, as we were talking before the show, right? If you kind of look back at these, challenging times like back in 2008, right? What do many of us remember, at least in my case, still well founded in a life of service, right? So I don't want to say being in the military makes us immune to all of that. It's certainly, we can see it, we understand what's going on. We certainly are planning for the future. Many of us do have savings in various different capacities, investments, and things like this. So you see the impact of that, but at the same time, and again, I know this is somewhat of a sensitive subject because we're not completely, immune to these kind of things. But we mentioned job security, right? I don't know what you think, Scott. Like, wearing the uniform, it's not to say that that might not come to an abrupt end rather rapidly, but the chances are, right? I mean, we do have some level of job security. But as we find that members make this career progression and step into these times, and now you're starting to see two things, right? You're starting to see amount of runway you have in front of you, earning potential. How much time do I have left, right, to earn? And then you start to realize that, hey, this does have an impact, on your life, right, as you pursue these kind of things. And you do feel it, I think, in a different way than when you're wearing the uniform on the inside, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, you're not immune to it. We do have some job security, right? But yeah, it feels different, I think, for most members as they're looking at a time like that, out of uniform now on the civilian sector. And I think most of our members, and I know you target it this way, most members, Blue Water, if you look at our membership, we are about that, mid 50s, oh 06, we've got a high 25%, oh 05. So, almost 80% of our throughput, our membership is that oh 05, oh 06 stepping through and getting ready to step into career progression. So, they're very excited when we have the 10-year conversation with them. Hey, you're stepping into this new phase, right? Let's look at a 10-year block period of time. Not only as you pursue your next success, your earning potential, but what can you do with all that revenue in that period of time? Because that really starts to kind of be, and I'm not saying that they're not going to work longer than that, but that's a very nominal figure. I mean, is that pretty much aligned with conversations you have with members?
Yeah, because what I've basically seen over the last 15 years and working with
Yeah,
retirees when they're coming out, even the best savers, it's pales in comparison to what can be made in post-military income streams.
sure.
So, to bank, hey, I'm just going to have this retirement account, and what comes what may,
Yeah,
it's gonna be a big nest egg. Like, yeah, of course, to have savings, we got to do that, but it's really, really hard to stay disciplined over 30 years. Even if you get it on autopilot, then you don't know what opportunities you might have missed out on to, gotten in on Google early or whatever it is. And so, that's it's impossible for everybody to be their own, investment guru, especially when you're competing against the big money managers out there. So, the only game in town oftentimes is things like thrift savings plan, 401k, in using some sort of money
yeah,
management and just seeing how the market does. And hopefully, when you're getting out to actually use the money, that it hasn't crashed. But since that's all out of our control,
a lot of it
it
is,
just
right?
it just really is. We can organize the stocks and bonds and manage it over time, and then they're going to change the interest rate on a whim, or they're going to just print trillions of dollars and the inflation's going to go up. So
Yeah,
what
right.
we can control are those next 10 years to really find a good fit, try to make good income. But that's where I hear most often, hey, Scott, I just want to take advantage of this opportunity to really, maximize my streams of income. And that's the advantage of having the pension, the VA disability,
Sure.
along with a second career. But being okay with, the other uncertainty that's coming right now is might not land that job right away, might not be able to have confidence to put money away, or even worse, maybe I need to use the money I've saved, but unfortunately, because I've only been saving for retirement, all that money has been locked into accounts I'm not supposed to touch until age 60 or
Right.
59 and a half is the
Yeah.
the non-penalty age. So what I advocate, in addition to, hey, go get more money, is this is why we call it the war chest strategy. Build up a war chest to give yourself that asset, that buffer zone, to not just having more emergency funds.
Right.
You probably already got that, but to have an opportunity fund to give yourself a chance to use money in those 10 years if something else better pops up and you need some moving room to either find a new job, start a business, additional investments on the side that aren't a traditional investment, because those doors start to open up, especially if you are because here's what I hear when these types of things happen. People say, oh, I want to get out of the market, I've saved this much, I don't want to lose it. And so people, maybe
Right.
they go to cash, or they reduce the risk in their portfolio, and then the market bounces back and they end up missing that. And so
Yeah.
since that is just adding the stresses and trying to make those decisions. So yeah, I think you're right. Those next 10 years, I'm glad that's why you focus on that. And you also focus on, hey, if you do go through the Blue Water program and get some help and get some alignment, the chances of getting that income quicker, maybe negotiating a
Sure.
little higher, is gonna work in your favor.
Yeah, no, it's and again, aside from the financial investment strategy or strategies to protect, as your words, hey, I've got this war chest. How do I, you know, how can I leverage income to protect what I've already built and
Mm-hmm.
diversify in some of these things? And I love your approach. For the listeners out there, right? What I would say is, Scott, your approach has always been very mathematical, right? Let's just remove the emotion from it. I've shared with you my own personal experience when I went through my transition, right, and discussions on SBP. And again, not to turn it into a discussion whether you should or shouldn't. That's all very, personal and tailored decision to the individual. But I wasn't the recipient of a very non-emotional mathematical discussion. I was the recipient of a very emotional, hey, there was a big push that you guys just need to do this. And I just didn't appreciate the approach. And in my own case, I made a decision, that was not, informed. And I love your approach that you spend with our members. It is very informed, right? Let's talk about the math. Let's take a look at this, right? In this period of time, with some earning potential in front of you, what is in the realm of possible in this time period, right? And I love how you approach that. But for also, kind of like you opened the door and you alluded to this, for Blue Water members stepping into career progression, there's some other things to think about, leading indicators, the market going through big changes like this. As you're sipping, a cup of coffee and you're watching the morning news or whatever it happens to be, right? As you are stepping into career progression, there are other ramifications. It's kind of like what you and I talked just briefly before the show, pre-show discussion. I said, man, if you were stepping into career progression and it's been your life desire to go to work for Intel tomorrow, ooh, I'm going to tell you, have you seen the recent story on layoffs? Man, they're letting 15,000 people go, right? And so the conversation segues to, well, what do you say, Mike, that you don't like Intel? You don't think? I go, no, 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 no. It doesn't have anything to do with what we like or what we don't like. It goes to mindset, right? And you are likely to discover, hey, I'm still going to tell you to chase your dream if that's where you want to go and what you want to do. But you may not get there in the next 120 days, right? It may take you longer than 4 months to pursue or turn that vision into reality. But look at the big stories we've seen, right? In the tech sector, it just continues to roll out. Not long ago, Meta let 11,000, or Facebook let thousands,
Really?
Amazon has let a lot of people go. Look at the recent Google story that just came out. I know they're challenging this ruling that
Oh,
that
the
was levied.
monopoly ruling.
The monopoly ruling, right?
Interesting.
Think about the impacts that is going to have, right? Microsoft is going through some of their similar challenges as well. Look at Boeing just hired a new CEO. When we say to do your market analysis and to do your quantitative deep dive, understand what's going on in the industry and the landscape that you may be interested in pursuing, right? And this is where it matters to you in your next success to ultimately generate revenue for some period of time, right? You have to take a look at that, right? And it goes to the mindset, right? Hey, historically, I know a lot of people that have landed with this company X, Y, or Z, but now company X, Y, or Z is going through some major challenges. Is that going to affect my timeline as I pursue this company? And the answer may be yes, maybe it's no. But the point is, you have to look at the environment before you just jump in. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
these changes in the stock market and things like this, they have real implications, especially to members who are making that next step and pursuing some industry or company that is affected by these changes, right? An interesting one that, again, you and I teed up just briefly. If you are way interested in the energy industry, and the energy industry is just very exciting, right? Well, again, not to turn this into a political discussion, that's not my intent here. I don't want to go one side or the other, but we have, right, the potential. I mean, you know what the issues are. They're polar opposites, man. On one hand, you've got an administration that wants to make America energy independent, and we're going to drill and we're going to open up all these other kind of things. And then you got another side of the administration that's saying, no, 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 we're not going to do that. It's going to be renewable energy and solar panels on your roof and wind farms and whatever, all that stuff. It's same energy industry, different approaches, different sides to this. If you don't think that that may have some impact on the oil and gas energy industry, or even something here locally in the Hampton Roads area like Dominion Power or some of these kind of things, right? Depending on our government and how it is driving and maneuvering, those are impacts that could affect Blue Water members in pursuit of their next success just based on policies that are being outlaid there. So again, I'm not trying to say live in fear of these things and, hey, this has been my lifelong dream to go do this thing. I'm not saying come off your lifelong dream, but you better have the right mindset and you better understand what's going on and changes to the landscape, right? Because it's certainly likely to have an impact on the amount of time required for you to make that next step. Does that make sense? I mean, and we spent a
Yeah.
lot of time talking about that.
Well, let me ask you this, because often you hear chaos creates opportunity, um, and you hear something like 15,000 job laid off. Like, what kind of jobs are those? Are they going to be line workers or?
Good
I mean,
question. Right?
it's
I think a
so
lot of
these companies are so big, it's possible to even fathom how they could have tens of thousands of employees. It's like, oh, we don't know what they do.
yeah.
Like how do they do that? How big is their executive team? Like and is that why is that the easier layoff than a line worker, for example? But from the mindset perspective, can this kind of chaos create opportunity for retirees to shift how they're thinking about things?
I think so, right? I mean, and let's look at it not from a negative, but maybe let's look at it from a positive, right? As you're seeing these shifts, as maybe one industry may be impacted negatively, right? Are there other industries that are impacted positively, right? And
Yeah.
moving in an upward trend. And those are exciting opportunities as well, Scott. You're like, hey, I'm looking at, let's just say, for example, startups in the defense industry. Look at companies like, Anduril. Look at companies, that are stepping into that typically, if you think old, big, lethargic moving companies in the defense industry, you know, um, and I'm reluctant to kind of name names here, but you get it, right? The old dinosaurs that aren't very agile. And now you have a new, vibrant company, which is well funded in a startup, led by an individual who doesn't approach the defense industry historically like some of the old, well-established players do, and is much more agile, and use of off-the-shelf technology happens very rapid, and I can deliver results quicker, under budget with a product that, for all intents and purposes, pretty much works and meets what the government needs from it, right? But that's exciting, right? In a very agile manner. It's not going to be bound by these things. So as you look at these industries, where one is challenged and maybe others are thriving, right? That can be, for members stepping into career progression. You're like, hey, I'm interested in this industry, but I like how this company is being agile and pursuing this. Maybe I want to look at them, right?
Yeah.
But it can be exciting, right? I think the point is, and I would just sum it up like this: look before you jump, right? I mean, I think that's fair. Look
Yeah.
before you jump. And,
Sometimes we get too confident these companies are big and robust and they're
yeah,
kind of like the military. It seems like the military and they can be as stable, but military is not going to do mass layoffs. It might do some downsizing, but we understand we're probably the ones managing that at this point. So,
and
okay.
I think that's a good way to look at it, right? So, um, but again, and then the last thing I would say, for our members, this is yet again a reinforcement, and we put this out at every cohort we do, Scott, and we try to reinforce it, but it really is hard for our members to adopt this, and the bottom line up front is never stop looking, right?
Mm,
You're stepping into a new phase of your life. You're never going to stop looking. Hey, here's a news flash for everybody: you don't have a placement officer, you don't have a detailer, you don't have a community manager, you don't have a monitor, whatever your brand of service is, assignments officer, whatever it is. You don't have any of that in your life anymore. 100% of all of that rests on your shoulders, right?
mm-hmm.
So you never stop looking. So just because you land someplace and you get a job and you're now pulling in revenue, and then on your side, I'm engaging with Scott, I'm figuring out how to build the war chest, I'm figuring out how to protect, what I have, right? It's the structure of the revenue that's coming in is equally as important as the revenue itself. But here's that newsflash: you're never going to stop looking. So what does that mean? That means you continue to be building your network. You continue to show interest into other opportunities out there, maybe other industries, maybe other companies, right? You continue to have an interest in that. We have had members that landed, right? Received an offer, accepted an offer, went to work for a company. And in short order, due to some of these fluctuations we're talking about, have found themselves now thrust back out into a career progression again, right? Due to some of these changes that we're discussing here. So, and now they feel like they're starting all over. Well, it should never be starting over, right? You're going to start once and you're going to continue to do these things. I get it. Are you ready? Here's this word: forever, right? And you hit the nail on the head. When we're wearing the uniform, do we all really have time to prep for this next step? Most of the time, no, right? We put ourselves last. Our loyalty is to the job, to leadership that we're serving at that point, to the team that we're with. Man, I'm going to do this to the bitter end, until all of a sudden we're like almost out of time, days, right? And then we go, oh man, I got to get prepared to get a job, right? Here at Blue Water, we recognize that, right? And part of us building this vibrant network of like-minded senior leaders who are now stepping in and making up the Blue Water network that now spans hundreds of companies across many different industries, with keen insights that we have into all of those. We can give members a very quick inject into that network, right? Because we know they don't have time to build it themselves.
See, I think that's the opportunity that they have working with Blue Water to not get stuck in the weeds of, oh my gosh, the stock market's crashing or this company's lost or they just did a bunch of layoffs, because that's all in the news. That's coming later after it's already happened, where you're given the ability to connect directly with somebody that's already in the company. Can they probably give you some heads up? Hey, this actually looks like we're growing over here, or could be we're doing some downsizing before just waiting to see if it's going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we've had members um, that have landed squarely with some really good companies. In fact, just had a member out in Seattle not too long ago, landed with a consulting company out there that was not long ago merged and was acquired by another company. So not only did they land, but now all of a sudden they have to navigate, oh my gosh, our company's being acquired by another company, which is, there are some awkward challenges in that.
Yeah.
If members haven't been through that, and you're curious about it, I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline. In fact, I can put you in touch with some of our members who have navigated that and understand what those challenges are. So there's some unique things, but again, the landscape, right? We're coming from, and again, don't beat me up hard on this. I want to say fairly stable landscape in the military. I get it. There are drawdowns, and sometimes we offer early outs and some of these things, but for the most part, right, the environment was fairly, I would use the word stable, if that makes sense, right? I mean, I get it. We travel, we do a lot of things. We're in the military, we do this, but your job security, is pretty good, right?
That
For the
that
most part,
LAS.
stepping into this new environment. And to your point, and the whole point of the discussion here, right? You're living in an environment, I think, that is potentially more affected by a lot of the changes that you're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
And companies get merged, acquired, right? Opportunity goes away. Company goes through big layoffs. Maybe companies go through big growth spurts, right? There's opportunity. You got to be looking for that as well too. But again, I come all the way back to, what would we tell our members? Look before you jump, right? That's important. Look before you jump. And we talk about it in the market analysis phase as a quantitative deep dive. That's a college kind of deep dive book report kind of thing. You know what's going on in that industry. You know the strategy and the outlook. And is it a healthy environment, not healthy environment? Understand, right, what it looks like before you take a step that direction. And most importantly, is it going to preserve, right, the big rocks in your strategy, right? And if all of that aligns and it looks good and the environment looks healthy and it's a good fit for you, then by all means, let's target it and let's pursue it. But if it's some company that's going through some big changes, I'm not saying let go of your dream and you don't want to follow it. All I'm saying is, hey, you may need to adjust your mindset, right? That company's going through a massive layoffs and they're on a hiring freeze. That may not become a reality in your life in 30 days, right? You may have to take like 9 months to a year until a company works through that, right? And we've had members that have experienced all of that, right? And so look before you jump is what I'd say.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story today, if you're going to do quantitative analysis, typically quantitative analysis is what you're doing with the financial advisor, looking at the stock
Yeah.
portfolio, or if you're doing your stock analysis, which one should I buy, which fund is good. And the reality is, if you're looking at the quantitative analysis of your new opportunities to replace your military income stream, that's where you can have more control over
Yeah.
and give yourself something more positive to look forward to versus just seeing what the market's going to do. Got to play both games, of course, but don't let the one stress you out when you can really take better control of your financial
Yeah.
opportunity over those next 10 years, because these things are going to happen. So I think here is just to be a place to say, hey, let's acknowledge the emotions, but recognize that there's people we can talk to that have been through various situations, and we want to be a resource for that. And as such, Mike, let me show real quick this new webinar I'm going to launch, which
Oh, yeah.
kind of I'm calling it the war chest strategy for a wartime economy because I'm in the insurance industry. We're always about risk management, and after 2000, I mean, this goes back to kind of my story a little bit. When I got out in 2008, and I did not retire. I got out as a newly pinned, or no, I was still in the reserves. I was 03 when I got out, and so I needed to get a new job and ended up in the financial services industry. And right then is when the market crashed. Like literally the month
Yeah.
I started, Lehman Brothers collapsed, and I said, "Who's
Oh,
Lehman?"
really?
I
Is
said,
that?
"Who's Lehman Brothers?" Like
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
I had no idea. And
that was a big one.
the firm I was with, all the clients are calling in. My accounts are dropping. What do we do? Get me out of the market. And it was super stressful for all the firm I was with was all former military officers. So I was looking at them like my senior leader because they're all old guys at the time. I was only 30 years old. And so I'm looking at them as, all right, what do we do? And they, it was nobody knows what to do when the market's collapsing and they're printing money. And, it was a crazy time in 2008. I think we kind of forget because it's been pretty good the last
Sure.
15 years or so. Now, that could have been manufactured a little bit, but either way, retirement account values went up. Nest eggs went up. Baby boomers were happy. Baby boomers kept
Right.
spending. But the baby boomers aren't going to be around forever. And their assets are going to have to transfer. Fortunately, a lot of that's being
Hmm.
transferred kind of out into the ether, so to speak. But um, it also means there's not going to be as much spending and there's not as much money available to invest in the market. So there's just uncertain times. And so we see this coming. Everything's cyclical a little bit. And so that's what the insurance side of the house is for. And so that's what our webinar is about. We're going to talk about some of the demographic changes, how that impacts it, how taxes impact this stuff, but ultimately how this ties back to the situation military retirees face when really, actually, um, trying to answer these questions. This is what I hear most. I don't hear, "Hey Scott, how do I invest my money better?" I mean, yeah, there's always a little bit of that, but it's really about first those emotional things.
Yep.
I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I don't
Yep.
know what I don't know. And then a little bit, how am I doing financially? And when I 9 times out of 10 I'm saying, "You're doing great because you did the career, you earned the pension. Now
Yeah.
go get with Mike and Blue Water and you answer those other two questions
Yeah.
so you can find a good fit." And then that's what the control is about. And what we want to do is take the risky stuff off the plate for some of your benefits or your assets. Some of that uncertainty, we can help you remove that stress so that you can deal with finding what you want to do next. So you don't have to worry about these stock market declines as much. But
No, but I love your approach on it, Scott, right? Because again, the way it resonates in my mind is it's not just, right, um, securing some follow on, a revenue stream, right, in pursuit of your next success, but it's what you do with it, right? It's the structure of it. And um, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of legacy institutionalized programs that are available out there, but I would use that word legacy, institutionalized, dated, right? There are many new, more modern, flexible options, right? And I love how you approach this, right? I mean, that give the member a lot of flexibility, right, in what to do with this, investment of revenue as you structure it, right, in your next phase here. And I love the discussion out there. This looks like a great discussion that you're getting ready to kick this off. So just tell us, when are you going to launch this and when are you going to do this?
yeah, it should. No, it'll be on our website, available anytime. It goes in good with the books as well, and should have it up today or tomorrow.
Wow.
And I'll put the links out there, and it'll be the main thing I uh, point people to as they're thinking about working with us, because I lay everything out we do so they get their questions answered, and that way
Right.
when we do get on a phone call, we can get right to it and address what are your pressing concerns based on your time, because everybody's coming in at a different
Mm-hmm.
time frame perspective on things. And unfortunately, most of the info when you're going through a TAPS program or any traditional career transition program, they're putting you all in the same box. Oh, you're in the military. Okay, so you were going through this. Yeah, but in what order and in what priority? That is going to be super individualized. So,
Yep.
at some point we got to say maybe it's time to stop following the structured approach of what the military thinks is best for me or some organization, and I'm gonna have to figure it out myself. So,
Right.
adding some certainty around the financial side of it is, of course, the big question here. And when we can't know if we're going to have a job, we can manage what we've already built better. Whether
Right.
that means being more efficient with SBP or TSP decisions, just making sure you've got the right one for you so that you're not worried about it. Um, or it's figuring out what am I doing with my overall financial strategy? I haven't had a chance to look at this. How does this tie into the new job? Maybe don't need to be as concerned as I thought I needed to be. And
Yeah.
that's why I love having those kind of conversations. People saying, listen, yeah, we can do all the quantitative stuff and run the numbers, but first let's just address the elephant in the room and saying, do you even have a problem, or is this, really a better opportunity? I think I get to tell that second story a lot more often,
Yeah.
and that's why I get up every day. It's more fun. Yeah, I don't have to
Well,
freak
it is.
everybody out.
No, and it's a great value add, right? And I love the service that you're bringing, especially to the membership that you're bringing it to, right? I mean, and again, you and I have chatted about this, right? This is why I think our relationship works so well, right? We value the same membership base. We value that same demographic, but the expertise that we bring to them is completely different, right? But yet we still know, having lived that ourselves, right? We know that it's needed, right?
Yeah,
I fully understand that there's a lot about navigating through, right, this career progression until they land, and even for that matter, even post landing, how to onboard a company, how to ramp within a company, and then all the way up to your first year. How are you going to renegotiate your annual compensation at the end of that first year, right? Like these are all firsts, right? Never before seen events that our members work through that we're honored to be a part of navigating that space with them as they go through these challenges, right? And so you bring the insight of, man, the structure of the revenue that I'm now pulling in. Like,
yeah,
it's not just a matter just to earn it, but what do I do with it? How do I build the war chest? How do I preserve it? Man, I'm happy to share personal decisions I made with members, but man, I don't have the depth in the space like you do and your team, right? And so I just love the relationship. I think it works, right? Because it's needed insight. Our members
yeah.
all need that insight for sure.
And I appreciate it as well, Mike. And I appreciate the opportunity to go up to Annapolis
Yes.
for
Mhm.
your next cohort coming up at the Naval Academy Alumni Association. And I think I saw there might be an opportunity for a lucky taker.
I would love to tell you it's still open, but for the
Oh,
members out there,
somebody
these
bit?
opportunities fill quick. So it is completely full up.
Good.
We were asked to kind of help fill the last couple of seats at that event up there, which took us all of about maybe 5 days once we started really advertising it and putting it out there. It's just such a great opportunity in a great environment up there. The Naval Academy Alumni Association up there in Annapolis, just doing a fantastic job. Great new building that they've constructed up there, the Flugel Center. We're excited to be, teaching in that space up there for the 2 day cohort that you will be a part of, right? Up there. So, yeah, we're really excited to do that. It'll be kind of our standard cohort, day one on Wednesday, the 11th. And then day two, as you know, we set aside about an hour and a half for each member to meet with them one on one. So if they want to discuss resume or social media presence or networking or whatever it happens to be throughout, the day prior, if they've got any questions, we can do that in a one on one session as we usher them into the enduring relationship of the Blue Water Network, right? So that's just a great way to kind of to bring that out there. And so we're really excited about it. We got some neat events planned up there. It's just going to be good. So I'm excited that you'll be coming up for that part of that on
Yeah,
day 2 there as well
I'll hang
too.
out and answer questions as
Yeah,
needed.
no, it's gonna be good. So that's coming up near term. Also, um, here I don't have the calendar in front of me. I think it's August, maybe 22nd, 23rd. Right, we're headed out to Reno, Tailhook, and we're going to be out there for a couple of days and going to just have an opportunity to kind of arc around and just have discussions with members, stay in touch with old friends, see companies out there, continue to spread insight around Blue Water. And if members want to have discussions out there as far as what they can expect, right? What does it look like? Again, never a threat to retention. We're not recruiting people out there. We're just letting people know that when the time is right, when you, your family, and your Navy family decide it's time for you to make that next step into career progression, we're a trusted resource that's there for you, right? And
Yeah.
trusted for a lot of reasons. We've navigated it ourselves. We found success on the other side, and now we're just wrapping it all, bringing it back forward to members to present it in a current, relevant, credible format, right? So we're excited about that.
And Mike, if there is an organization, whether that's a veteran service organization or maybe even a company that wants to hire veterans or maybe have you talk to their HR team or whatever,
Yeah.
is those types of organizations can reach out to you as well to kind of set up maybe opportunities similar to what you did to the alumni association, right? Or even
Yeah,
even military commands if they wanted to have you
absolutely.
come talk.
Yeah, it's a great call out, Scott, and thanks for bringing that up. But you're absolutely right. We're available. CNAF, which is a Navy command, Commander Naval Air Forces out in San Diego, they had brought us out. We get a lot of questions. Hey, when are you coming back to San Diego? When are you coming back to San Diego? The short answer is we'll come back to San Diego at any time if there is a command that wants to sponsor us and bring us to San Diego. We're looking hard at going to Seattle first quarter of next year, 2025, and we think we're making some good inroads there. But the same challenges. You're either going to need to find a corporate partner who's going to sponsor you to get out there, or some command, right, that says, "Hey, I'm a large command. We have a number of individuals that would benefit from having, going through a cohort like what Blue Water offers, bringing them into the Blue Water network. Okay, great. And we're going to help bring Blue Water out to Seattle, right? And we absolutely do those things, right? Just as the Naval Academy Alumni Association has engaged with us and is bringing us up to Annapolis, right? So we're excited to offer those opportunities. And man, I just love the growth. We're slow, steady growth, right?
Yeah.
We're about ready to end. We're at 3.5 years right now, so we're getting close to 4 years, and the network's continuing to grow and doing some amazing things. So
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of nudge, like, obviously your cohorts fill up and there's only so many spots and not everybody can fly out to where you're going to be. But just to remind folks, hey, if you like the idea of bringing this kind
yeah,
of next level approach, talk to those who can provide that sort of opportunity and bring it out to you, or maybe there's another even a virtual way of setting something
we
up. But
are an approved
yeah,
government contractor. We have, we're
okay,
in
cool.
NAMS, we have cage code, DUNS numbers, all this kind of stuff. If your command needs some kind of a proposal, we're happy to work that up in a government format. We try to make it easy for our members. We do all those things, right? So yeah, we're excited,
Awesome.
and we're working hard to kind of get Blue Water listed in a number of resource guides out there that makes it even easier, for commands to kind of find us and secure our services. So slow,
Cool.
steady growth, man. That's what we do, right?
Yeah, same here. I've been, all this stuff I've been working on to launch. It's been years in the making.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm always kicking myself. I wish I would have set this up, years ago. But at the same time, I want to do it the right way with the right
Yep.
people and not bug people too much. So if you do sign up for our webinar or one of our books, we're going to be starting a newsletter soon. And, that'll just remind people to reach out to us, when it's a good time and fit for them, because we know there's always going to be something else coming up, especially during military retirement, and you got to prioritize things. So
Like,
no rush on our end. But all right, dude. Well,
good
I think that's
discussion.
good for this week. I'm
Yeah.
heading out to Ohio for my mom's 80th birthday on Friday,
Oh, great. Good for
and
you. Safe travels.
yeah, yeah. No, thanks.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
on that, I'll be in touch, and we'll talk to everyone again next week.
Thanks,
Make
Scott.
sure again to connect with Mike and I on LinkedIn, and you'll reach out to me if you want to get access to the webinar,
Yeah.
and I will send you a link.
Sounds
All right.
good. Thanks, Scott.
Take care, man.